Well, welcome to a new episode of Trending Topics with BB. I appreciate everybody that will listen to this when the audio is up shortly afterwards, as well as the video replay that is available on the channels that are currently streaming right now. My lovely guest today is Micfreak. We've had the pleasure of meeting in chat on Twitch over the last year and a half, and I wanted to talk about his musical background. So, welcome to my podcast.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. Um, so I guess I want to start with kind of how you got into producing and DJing and
Oh,
why house music for you. Why specifically do you
uh,
find a love for house music?
okay. So I didn't even know. Well, I got started in music a little early, like around 7, 8 years old. I wanted to play basketball, but I had asthma, so I couldn't. So my mom was like, "Try the violin," and that's how it kind of started. I didn't like the violin, but that kind of, I guess, put that. How do you say that? Yeah, it kind of like made me think that there's an option in what I wanted to do, which was sports, but it didn't work out. So yeah, music was that. And then until high school, when I started playing for bands, I was like, oh, this is fun playing in front of people. So yeah, high school all the way to after college, I was playing for bands, and I think that like during my final year in college, I actually majored in music, so that's one. Um, I was doing classical music as well as playing rock music. So the funny thing was after, doing rehearsals and doing gigs, there was nothing else to do. So we would go to raves, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but I was there. I was dancing and hanging out with folks and meeting a lot of people. And yeah, this was back in the Philippines where I grew up. So yeah, one of the first DJs I saw that I've like really looked up to was Derek May, and yeah, he came to over to the Philippines, did the set. I was blown away by it, but I didn't really care much for it, really. But I was like, it was a mind blowing experience. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Awesome. And you said you majored in music.
Yeah.
Was it a specific instrument or just
Um.
music
Well, I
history or
was.
music?
So my plan was I was going to be a percussionist, and I was pretty good at it. But at the same time, my kind of thinking was, if this fails, might as well just teach music. So I ended up taking music education and majored in it. But yeah, I could I can play the piano and the percussion pretty good. So that's kind of like my background music wise. And I've learned a whole lot of other instruments. Like I can play the guitar, bass, so whatever instrument I kind of like needed or felt like I needed to play, I kind of learned it. So yeah, and then now I don't know if there's a cello right there. My daughter's playing it, but I'm playing it with her, so we practice every now and then. So yeah, that's
That's awesome. So yeah, I I grew up playing the saxophone, which hence the name.
right.
And
Okay, cool.
yeah, I played alto and bari. I actually still
I
have
was
them
about
and
to
kind
ask
of
if you what
yeah.
range. Yep.
Um and I did the whole marching band thing
Ah,
and
cool.
then I also picked up in high school steel drums. So I played a little steel
Ah,
drums.
nice.
And then my freshman year of college I played with the steel drum band at college as well. Um, and then, over the course of playing instruments, I kind of studied theory kind of just because that's what you do in band is that you got to learn how to read music. So you just kind of study that through your
Yeah.
time. But I
Mhm.
didn't specifically major in music.
Okay.
So I kind of want to pick your brain on your I have a hard time like I've tried producing recently. I tried downloading a DAW. I have Ableton, and I was trying to kind of
Oh,
think of
nice.
put some ideas down.
Mhm.
And because I have an instrument background, I have a hard time n- like putting two and two together with DAWs. You know
Oh,
what I mean? Because
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
whole idea of pressing a button as opposed to recording an instrument is a little bit hard for me to grasp.
Mhm.
Have you been able to kind of create kind of the electronic sound knowing your background in music?
Um, I think the hardest part on my end was, yeah, pretty much understanding how DAWs work. I knew I knew if I have an idea, I can sing it and I can play it on the piano or I can play it on the guitar. That was, I guess, that was kind of easy on my end, but trying to translate it over to Ableton kind of took a bit of work for me to like understand how those things work. But eventually, after several YouTube and I joined a ton of forums when I was starting out on Ableton. That's when I kind of like, oh, this is how things work. And I think one of the hardest things to understand with new producers is understanding like the formula of making dance music. So it's one of those things that people need to understand because it has some sort of a formula to it. And once you understand the formula, the next part is adding your creativity to it, which is even harder. So my suggestion would be, like, if you're using Ableton, like, put your favorite song in Ableton and try and dissect it. Like what happens on the intro. On the intro, like just a kick drum happens. So usually, if you listen to a whole lot of dance music, it usually starts with a tugs, tugs, tugs. That's a formula right there. So you kind of need to understand that's what happens, and also it works as me looking at it now as a DJ, because I started as a producer first. Now that I'm DJing, I kind of like, oh, something, it opened up even more. So yeah, one is understanding the formula. Second is like adding your creativity to it. I don't know. Third is kind of like finding your sound, because people have different types of sounds that they want to do. So I think that's the third one. I don't know. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know if I I don't know if I explained that pretty good, but yeah.
Yeah, those are. I guess I never thought of it that way, but I guess I guess my disconnect is that I like multiple genres of electronic dance music.
Yeah.
So, like, I have some ideas that are kind of intricate, and I think that's why I've had some struggles kind
Yeah.
of breaking it down because I have some ideas of remixes and kind
Mhm.
of reworks that are pretty advanced, but yet I don't really know the DAW well enough to like execute it. So I think that's the issue. I just think I need to figure out something a little bit more simple, I guess, to
Yeah,
start with.
I think mo the way to do it and understand how it goes is like, yeah, start things simple. If you have an idea, are you using a controller, or you're just in front of Ableton?
Well, I do have a MIDI controller. I have a little mini like
A
keyboard.
mini keyboard. Okay.
Yeah,
So right there, you could start with something easy, like, just program a drum loop that you like, and then, once you nail that one, you can. It's pretty much like copy and paste. Kind of think of it as like your Word document. So, like your first
yeah,
sentence, you just copy and paste it, and then if you want to add another one, then layer it with something else, then copy and paste it, and then it keeps going on and on until you have several sentences, and that's kind of like your main idea right there, and then you kind of like move it in different places, like your first sentence, you copy it and put it in like the second verse or something. So you kind of have like, think of it as think of it as like your Word document kind of thing, or kind of like an Excel,
got it.
where you have, yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say it without being in front of Ableton or without being in front of the software. But
Right.
yeah, kind of you have to think of it like that. That's kind of how I'm thinking of it.
Do you did when you were starting out, did you after you studied music and everything, did you have an issue with like seeing the notes in your brain first and then executing it? Because there are DAWs out there that like translate into sheet music. And
Hmm.
I think I've tried kind of tutorials on those, and my brain kind of works in that way. That's what I'm kind of
Yeah.
saying, is like if I just had like wrote down notes,
Hmm.
I'm more of a person that can like go from there as opposed to the lines or the waveforms within a DAW.
Oh, okay. Because there are a couple of ways to do it. One is if you're making your music that way on Ableton, there's thing you call piano roll, so you can pretty much draw your notes right there. So if you're
Okay.
um here's another formula in dance music. That a lot of times dance music is just like a two chord progression. So if you know your music, you always have your first your first note, and then you move four steps up. That's your second. So you pretty much play with those two notes. You can have something danceable right there. It's kind of like if I'm standing right in the in front of a piano, I have my controller right here. I can kind of like visualize how that those two notes can make people dance right away. So looking at it like that, so you just draw like if you're like you play alto, the alto sax, right?
Yeah.
So alto sax is like that's a B flat. Is that a B flat instrument?
It's alto and
Oh,
barrier E flat.
oh, E flat. Okay, so you just play your E, bump, 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 then move on to your fourth note. Pop, 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 pop. So you add the kick to that. The, 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 pop, 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 pop. So that's put it in Ableton like that. You kind of have like a groove. I don't know. It's a music geek in me. Sorry.
Well, that kind of
Yeah.
well, it, as we talk about house music, there there's been kind of saxophone's been used in house music,
Yes.
and why other than like the previous genres, and we could go down that rabbit hole, but basically other than the influences that became before house music, why do you think there's certain instruments that bode well with on top of electronic, specifically like house music, and kind of the different ways, specifically like what I'm harking back is to the collab you did with Abco,
Hmm.
and just the piano, and why everybody loves Higher so much is
Yeah.
just breaking down that riff. So to kind of go back with the saxophone, why do you think, in your opinion, knowing music, it works well?
I think a lot of it is I'm gonna hard go back to the simplicity of it. Um, Unlike any other electronic music genres, it's kind of like traditional. You just use the piano as opposed to when you're listening to techno. There's a lot of things going on. I mean, I love techno, and I play techno every now and then, and I enjoy those electronic sounds and those weird sounds, but they make you dance. And the piano is kind of like very traditional. It's been used for ages. And when you think about it, even like in the 1700s, now this is another the music geek in me, like these people who wrote dance music back in the day, if you listen to um I dare say Beethoven, they were being used as they were used by the kings and the queens for their dances. So
Yeah.
right, so and it kind of all started with him just writing those music and the piano and translating it to the orchestra. So um it's one of the basic instruments, really. If you need to understand music, you look at the piano, kind of look at how it goes, and So with dance music, with especially with house, it's built off of that. Because technology back then, there's a lot of it really that evolves on technology. The keyboard was very accessible. If you don't have a guitar, if you have a keyboard, you can mimic the sound on your synthesizer with that. So it kind of falls down on like the basics of music pretty much. Oh, Joseph Ray is here. Hey, Joseph.
Shout out, Joseph. Thank you for stopping by.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I technically I should say that actually the first instrument that I took lessons in was piano, but that I kind of feel like I don't know. I mean, I know that it's in the QC and I kind of remember some of the scales, but I spent so many years mastering saxophone that the scales and kind of way of playing in my mind is based on the sax. Um, but it's just, I guess, I don't know. I guess I haven't had the time to kind of really kind of transpose the ideas and kind of put them
Ah.
down yet. So it's kind of because I've also had that fear of like I don't understand. I'm more of a can read music and think of it in that terms as opposed to maybe importing a plugin. So I guess I need to do a little bit more practice. I guess.
Yeah, it's more of a mindset as well, and yeah, practice actually. Doing it like even before I logged in here. I was making music, so it kind of it's been like a routine for me. I always find time to make music, even for an hour or a couple of minutes. It's a commitment more than anything else. It kind of like how do I say it? It's kind of like how you got into saxophone and how you understood it because you did it every day. You practiced it every day. Like if you're doing your band routines, it's something you do every day. You know where you're supposed to go. If you're doing your march, you count and all that.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with sports. Y- if you want to be good at something, you do it every day. You do it every single day until you become good at it. Even if you're good at it, you still do it every day. It's a yeah, it's mental practice and physical. So
I kind of
yeah.
want to go back a little bit before we continue on the music route. Can you explain how you got your name, Mike Freak,
Oh, that's embarrassing.
or the story you want to tell?
Yeah, well, because my first name is Michael, and my dad's name, um, his name was Miguel. So, and growing up, I kind of wanted his friends called him Mike, and I wanted to be called Mike too. And I didn't want to be called Michael, so I like the name Mike. So, but his Mike was Mike. So to kind of like differentiate it, like I'm the son, not the dad. So I used MIC because I felt like it sounded cool back then. So yeah. And the freak was I was signing up for an email and I didn't know what to what to put in. So I just used Mike Freak. And then, when I started getting gigs, what I couldn't use my name because even Filipinos couldn't say my last name. And so I was like, yeah, let's just use Mike Freak. And that was it. It was it was a very
Stuck.
random thing. So now it's yeah, it everyone.
Awesome. So, so do you still kind of like I know in your bio and stuff you still list music educating. Do you teach? Do you
I
or are you
Yeah.
more like teaching classes of production? What
So yeah, my day job. So I teach music since I do have a background in music and education. So that's my day job. I teach music here in Baltimore City, and I teach kids. So I teach them the keyboard. I teach singing, which I couldn't do now with the pandemic. But back then, yeah, I teach those, and so that's been my day job. That kind of pays the bills, and the rest like music production. I help out a lot of producers, so I kind of like do meets every now and then on Zoom or Google Meets where I help out several producers as well. So it's one yeah, it's still yeah, teaching, but that one I enjoy cuz I get to talk about music technology.
That's awesome. Well, I guess because I spent majority of my life in music education, I'm very passionate about continuing and keeping the arts in schools
Yes.
and the ability to help kids get an instrument,
Mhm.
or at least some sort of time. I mean, not saying that they have to play an instrument, but at least try it,
Yeah.
uh, other than the recorder. Because I feel like when I was in elementary school and they made us do the recorder, I actually did like playing the recorder. It wasn't
Yep.
until years later when I picked up the sax in middle school is when I was like, oh, I love music. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, I feel it's important and it kept me out of trouble and it kept me, studious.
Mhm.
And I don't, it's weird that they're like trying to get rid of the arts in schools
Yeah,
at an
actually
alarming rate.
yeah, that's it's pretty sad. Age and then ATX is here.
Nice to see the crew shopping back.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I think music is important, even if you don't, end up being a music professional, but enjoying it in some way, in some form, and making people understand that hey, music is fun, even if you don't, even if you don't play an instrument. Like the moment you hear something, you nod your head. That's a musical experience for some people, and I think in education we kind of don't see that value in it. There's a lot of things that you can learn, like I was talking about earlier. Practice in music kind of helps. Practice in anything develops that skill. So you can apply whatever musical skill kind of attitude that you learn and apply it in life. So I've always seen music as kind of like a mental and a physical kind of thing. So that's what as me as an educator, I kind of want kids to understand that it goes beyond what you're doing in the classroom. If you want to be good in math, you have to keep doing math. Kind of have
Right.
practice. Adding. 2 plus 2. When it becomes natural to you, kind of like music. When everything becomes natural, it flows. It just flows. Kind of like I'm gonna harken back to sports, which I love. You know, if you shoot every day, you're gonna get good at it, no matter what. So yeah, those are the musical skills that you can apply in life. Practice.
Along those lines, do you also believe that it's important to kind of educate musical history for kids as
Um,
well as like current people within the industry as well? Because there was an influx, in my opinion, of people wanting to get into this profession or get into the music industry and really didn't saw the glitz and the glamour, but they didn't really see the grit that goes into it and like
uh,
the knowledge.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I love history. I enjoy learning about the background of something like house music. I had to dig deeper to understand where it came from, and I don't know if that's. I feel it's not important. It is essential, kind of, because if you want to, if I don't even know how to say it, but I just love history on my own. But for someone who wants to get in it, you don't really have to understand it. Kind of, you know, like yeah, I have like take for example my daughter, like she likes K-pop, but she likes the new K-pop, and my wife was like into K-pop back in the day, and there's some disconnect between them. So like my wife knows the history, my daughter doesn't. So it's is it important? I don't know, but if you're gonna go and dig deeper, yes, it is. That's when it becomes important. So for you to understand what's going on, you have to look into history. But as someone who's like a casual listener, or maybe you're just starting out as a producer or as a DJ, you kind of like look to what you are into at the moment, and then as you go deeper, as you get to fall in love with it, then that's when you come looking for the history of it. If that I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
It's kind of shallow, but
well, no, what I'm getting, I guess it just depends on your outlook, but over
yeah.
the years, I've been really passionate about kind of memorizing music before I even started playing instruments. I grew up in a musical household. My dad was a Latin percussionist, so there was always music
Oh,
playing, and so I just grew up kind of memorizing music in terms of like artists and songs and different genres. And then when I started studying music, I was putting two and two together with so this is how they make that chord, and this is how they
yeah.
made that rhythm
Hmm.
as I got older. And then I just have found myself just kind of studying and then I got into electronic dance music in the 90s, and then it's just been this kind of like progression of like just learning as I've gone. But I've talked to people that kind of just have that disconnect where you not saying that they have to be like I am, but what I'm saying is sometimes I feel in present day that it helps that people kind of know the artist that
Oh,
began a genre or began a
definitely. Yeah, that's
sound.
important. It's important if you're like deep into it. If you are, if you want to be serious at this level, it's important for you to understand where it came from. So you always have your background. You always, the people that you look up to. But for someone who's like, yeah, you took music seriously. That's very important. Like I studied music, so I need to understand where it came from. I need to understand the
Yeah.
theory of it, and me understanding the theory kind of helps out with me producing. So there's a level to it that people will need to um understand. Yes, Jen, then I did yeah, studied music. Actually, I was about to
Great question.
yeah, I was I was taking a master's in music a couple years ago, but I stopped. Yeah.
Which is funny because about a month or two ago, I was like, maybe I need to go back to school and like get like a musicology
Yeah.
degree or a music history degree.
Mhm.
But part of me is like, do I want to go back to school? Because
Um,
I've been out of school for so many years,
I know.
and what my bachelor's degree is communication. It's not music. So, but it's just I love music so much, and I'm passionate about. I think that's why I started this podcast and been talking to various artists and people of different genres and stuff. Is because I like learning as much as I like listening
Well,
to music.
to be yeah, to be fair now, so several years ago, I was studying in Berkeley, but I was doing an online school and I enjoyed that
Yeah,
one. And I would suggest you check out their courses. There's a lot of stuff that you can find. I'm always an advocate for school. So yeah, well, I mean, learning through experience is great. Like I've learned a lot being a DJ, being a producer on my own, but it will always harken down to, I studied music, so that kind of like gives that enjoyment in me being in school. So right. That's how I'll always recommend going to school no matter what the age or what where
yeah,
you're at in life.
yeah. I'm still considering taking some classes. It's just I think part of me is like, I'm so out of practice of the school thing that like,
Ah.
yeah, it's like getting over that kind of hump. Um, I want to shout out everybody that's watching live. Thank you for their
Yes.
comments and questions.
Um. Yeah, we have a couple questions here.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it here. Oh,
What was Jen did? Yes, I did take music. I made then a majored in music college, and then I don't know. I just discovered producing. Then like 5 6 years ago, I just discovered DJing. So DJing was like my last musical skill that I picked up. I would say.
um,
Mm.
I want to talk about your album that you released this year.
Oh,
Uh, so
everything.
yeah, I do want to talk about that because it was a labor of love for you, correct? And it took a while to kind of put it
Yeah,
into like a long play album.
it's about 2 years.
2 years,
So
okay.
about a year or two, a year and a half to make. Um, so it's pretty special because yeah, 2019, 2018. I got sick. Yeah, I had cancer 2018, 2019, and it's one of those experiences that kind of changes your life because
Yeah.
it felt like a death sentence. I thought I was gonna go. And one of those things I've learned, and one of those skills I've learned was I've like learned how to make music anywhere. So, um, oh, scratch or
Oh,
sniff
sorry.
has. Oh, I'm sorry
Hoping
to
the
hear
best for
that.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, it's a very rough disease. It's both a mental and physical kind of thing, and yeah, 2019. So I signed actually 2018. I signed an EP with DJ Spen on his label Quantize, and he was like asking for more music. I was like, yeah, I have a ton of music ready, and so we put out the first album, I think 2019, and when it dropped, it was like my first chemo session, and I was in the hospital for like 5 6 straight days. I was just there. I was pretty much like in a hotel, but I was doing chemo. So um yeah, my wife brought my laptop and my keyboard with me, so I was just there pretty much for like 6 straight months. I was in and out of the hospital, and I was just making music. I wrote a ton of music while I was there because there was really nothing else for me to do, and I was plugged in. Everything was plugged, and I had my keyboard. I was just making music the whole time. So yeah, the album, everything, when it came out this year, was it's pretty much a labor of love and pain and a whole lot of emotions going through me. So yeah,
And I
so that's
guess,
why it's pretty emotional. Like now, when people ask about it, when I talk about it, it reflects all the experiences I went through during that time. And but it was also a blessing. That's when I ended up meeting Crystal Waters, and we ended up collaborating on one song, and that led to another one, which ended up being Party People. And yeah, that's now we're like working on our third one, but the album was kind of like based off of that, my work with her, and then a lot of collaborations, which is one of those things I've learned was, yeah, making music is a communal thing. It's not just all about me. Because when I was starting out, I thought was like I was just gonna make my own track, make my own work, and all that. But I've learned that you need people to work with, and it kind of like went back to like with me being in a band back then. I was playing with other people. I enjoyed it. It was some of the best times of my life, and now me collaborating on productions, kind of like, oh, this is fun working with people. So now, if you if you look at the album, there's like pretty much all the songs are collab that I did with people, and it took a while for me to understand that. So now I'm embracing collaborations as much as like before. I was like, I want to do things solo, and yeah. So
I think, yeah, I think that's awesome. Well, I just kind of wanted to shout that out so people go pick up your album and kind of a little backstory of what
yeah,
you went through. But speaking of collabs, obviously everybody on Twitch that follows, thank you for everybody watching right now live. Um, loves Higher with Abco, but I also know you're working on a collab with Lizzie Curious, right? Because I'm a friend. She's been on the pod as well, and I'm excited. I don't know the details. I just know she mentioned it. And what you've collabed a lot, and you just mentioned you like collaborations. What do you in house music? I've noticed there's just a love for collaboration more than maybe some other genres. I mean, it's kind of happening, but
yeah.
why do you think house music is more ingrained with collaborations than it is just straight remixes
I,
or reworks?
I don't know. I mean, when you think about it, like a lot of the music, even in pop music, is all about collaboration. Um, the thing with it now is like the collaborators are part of the music itself. So, perfect example would be "Beat It" by Michael Jackson. So
Yeah,
Van Halen played guitars on that, but he was not credited. You know, like if Michael Jackson released that now, it would have been "Beat It" Michael Jackson featuring Van Halen.
yeah, that's
So
true.
so it's one of those um like it's becoming the thing now where the people involved in the music making gets a credit for being a part of it. But back then it was just about that one artist or that one band. So now it's not I don't think it's just in dance music, house music per se, but back then I guess house music was kind of like one of those first, you know, genres that accepted collab as kind of like a standard or part of the culture per se, when all other forms of music kind of like just wanted to focus on that one artist. If yeah, if that makes sense right there, but that's how I kind of like see it. Because yeah, back then if people have been collabing for like forever, but house music was like one of the first ones to embrace that. Let's feature those people involved in the production and put their names in it, and make them part of the release. So now everyone's doing it,
Right.
and
It's
yes,
it's well, I guess
go
my
ahead.
question on that is, um, there just doesn't seem to be like egos when there's like a straight collab as much as
Well,
maybe there may have been in the past, or maybe it's just my way of looking at it. But like in pop music, they I guess it's just different when it's like featuring so and
yeah,
so
yeah,
on,
yeah, yeah,
you know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like in terms of like when you released with Abco, it's like you both, you know, put work into that. So like we
Mhm.
know that as a difference to like sometimes when you hear of a song being released and it's like featuring somebody and it's literally
Yeah.
they just put like they rap on it or
Yeah,
they
just one verse or one word.
yeah, exactly. Or they're just they maybe added an instrument in the background or something like that. So why do you think I don't know, it just seems to me that like house music is very inclusive a little bit
Mhm.
more than maybe
Yeah,
some other
actually, yep.
genres.
Yeah, actually, house music is one of the first um genres of music that's been accepting of different races, sexual orientation. I mean, there's always going to be discrimination anywhere, but house music is one of those like that accepted that, and it's has sort of become the norms. And now other genres are kind of following suit with what house music did. So, and when you think about the background of house and dance music, I'm, I'm not an expert when it comes to that, but you hear stories of back then. One of the first um places to where house music was played was at gay bars, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and disco back then, which was like the basis of house, where house music kind of started, where it got its foundation, was when you look at those places like Studio 54, where disco was big back then. These people were not, we wouldn't say they were living in what we call the norms back then, because it was like people of different orientation, different colors, and they were accepting of that. And once it became house music, it has become like a standard. When we don't look at you based on your color, your sexual orientation, we just look at you as the music. We love it, but we embrace it. So that's kind of how I think. That's why I guess house music stands out differently in terms of other forms of other genres of music.
Yeah, it's just been interesting, and I think I've noticed it being on Twitch and all that since the pandemic, and seeing everybody kind of thrive and collaborate and network.
Mhm.
There's just been a lot of, I mean, collabs that have come out of the pandemic actually, and a lot of um, maybe that weren't necessarily going to happen beforehand, or maybe they were, but it kind of it has been interesting to see like everybody kind of embrace collaborations a little bit more, specifically in this time when everybody was kind of isolated and
Yeah.
unsure of things. Um, what? How did you like start meet DJ Spin and get in with Conties and
Um,
your history there?
DJ Spen, how I met him. So here in Baltimore, there's radio station that supports house music, and shout out to WEAA
Nice,
here in here in here in Baltimore City, and every night they would do Saturday nights. They do like house music. They feature house music, and one of those nights I got invited to do a set for the station. So I went to the station, and one of the guys from Quantize was there. Um, DJ Quantize Groove, and we met there. And he told me he was part of Quantize. I was like, "Oh, I'm a producer. Can I send you demos?" So I kind of hustled my way there. So I sent demos, and then the demo went straight to DJ Spen. And yeah, we started talking right there on email. And you know, as soon as yes, I found out I was sick, I just hit him up with an email. I was like thanking him. This is perfect. I'm glad this EP is getting put out. And I just told him this is kind of like this has been a blessing out of all this stuff I've gotten. So I told him I was sick, and then first, next thing you know, he asked for my number. We started talking, and God prayed for me, and that was how the relationship started. And now, yeah, he's one of my. I would say he's like a dad, brother, older brother to me. So, but that's how it started right there.
awesome,
Oh,
great.
going back to the Lizzie Curious thing, I haven't heard back from Lizzie. He said she said she likes it. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, it's almost done. Unless, there's some changes that probably minor changes. I'm hoping it's just minor changes that needed to be done. But yeah, that's almost done.
I'm excited. I mean,
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about that. Hopefully, we all agree to where we want to take the track and the direction it's going. So I'm looking forward to that one. Stephen Hines, welcome in.
yeah,
Stephen.
welcome.
to
everybody.
Winston.
Thank you for following and chiming in live. Um, so I guess kind of where I wanted to talk about, we've talked about mainly collaborations and your background, but talk about kind of your community on Twitch and kind of how it's grown and kind of what Twitch streaming has done for DJs and producers.
So kind of my Twitch is kind of tied to DJ Spence and Abco. They were the ones that kind of like opened the doors for me as far as Twitch goes, because I had I was just trying to find a venue or like a way for me to DJ, and when clubs closed, like I was like, what am I gonna do? I want to DJ. So yeah, Abco, who were like real life friends even before the pandemic, we talked about putting out an EP. We met at clubs here in DC, and I was like impressed with what she was doing, and I love her style. We were like, so when we started talking about doing an EP together, and then before you know it, everything happened. The pandemic happened, everything shut down. So whatever projects that we were talking about got shelved. And then I found out, she was into Twitch. I was like, hey, let me check out what's going on on Twitch. So I suggested that to DJ Span, and DJ Span was like, yeah, let me start a Twitch channel and start streaming too. So before you know it, those two guys were like already big on Twitch. And I was like, what am I doing? So yeah, when that one started, Abco invited me to do a rooftop set. And that's where, I've got several, like about 50 followers from doing that rooftop set with Abco. So I was like, maybe I should start streaming regularly. Because when I was streaming up, I had like three people there. But when I did that set with Abco, I was like having a couple of regulars. So I was like, hey, let me just do this. This is fun. I enjoy chatting anyway. So might as well DJ and chat.
Right. I mean, I've enjoyed seeing everybody kind of thrive on this platform and kind of see where
Right.
it takes everybody. But it's just been interesting because I mean, I kind of knew I was kind of on Twitch um, before all of this, but not much. I'm
Hmm.
not the biggest gamer, but the idea of all the now I've been podcasting for almost 10 years, and so I'm now on Twitch doing it. But it's just kind of everything's kind of evolved, obviously, with the times, and it's just been interesting to see kind of everybody kind of meet up on Twitch and then kind of see how they
Yeah.
collaborate or team up on stuff. Like you mentioned, we were talking about inclusivity, like how Film House Fridays is such a
Right.
great initiative and how it's become so big for a lot of people to tune in every Friday and
Hmm.
help propel women and non-binary folk in music and producing and DJing, and it's just I think that's great that the community has embraced different ways of reaching other people.
Hmm.
From since you do music education and you DJ and produce, kind of what do you suggest for those that kind of have the same kind of aspirations going forward? I mean, the music industry is kind of in this like weird, I would say weird spot right now because of
Yeah.
things reopening up and
Hmm.
everything.
Um, I don't know. It's for me. It's always been about routine. It's always been about doing the same thing over and over and over every single day. And I kind of, for myself, I thrive on that. I thrive on schedules. I thrive on like, I wake up at 7, do this. At 8 o'clock, this is what I should be doing. And it's not for everyone, but you have to find that way of finding time for the things that you want to be doing and the things that you feel you need to do. So it's it's not time management pretty much, sorting out priorities. So my like my one thing I want to do is I want to just keep making music until until I can't make music. So I'm gonna have to find time to find a way to keep keep that part of my schedule. So you know, even when I'm working, I'm still making music. Like during my break time, I'm eating lunch. I'm making music. So just like what was talking about earlier, it's all about mental practice, doing it over and over and over until it becomes natural. And it's not it's not for everyone. It's pretty hard mentally because sometimes it just drives me nuts when you work on something, it doesn't work out. It's I make music that I love, no one listens to it. So that's when I kind of like have to reset, stop whatever I'm doing, and kind of like take a break for a couple of days and then come back to it because that's what I want to do. I just want to make music. So it's discouraging, but at the same time encouraging if you make it a habit. If you try and close distractions, not think about what's going on. Like my social media now. Stop. Yeah, one thing I did, I stopped looking at social media. I just post on social media, but that's what I do. I try not to get distracted by other things. But Twitch has been a distraction too.
Yeah.
So sometimes I end up being in the rabbit hole, being in the chat, being stupid in chat, and but it's fun. Yeah, that's what I love about Twitch. I enjoy it.
Well, I
Yeah,
some people. Well, I don't know. Some people have said it as well on on and other the what I found interesting about everybody joining Twitch in the last couple years and all the music and all the DJs that are on is that the music kind of became the focal point, and then like the chat and the community. I felt that that was kind of waning before the pandemic when you would go to clubs or go to events, and it wasn't necessarily, people weren't necessarily focused on the music. They were just kind of focused, hey, I to say I went to this event or went, um I was there, but I didn't really remember who was on stage or who was playing.
yeah.
And I think what Twitch is kind of reintroduced to a lot of people is like the importance of the music itself. Do you agree?
Um, I don't know. Um, because live music in itself, experiencing it is a different thing. But for some people, it could mean different things when you go to live events. Like sometimes some people just go there to be with their friends, and there are people who go there for the music itself. And you've I don't know if you notice, some people go to clubs by themselves. Those are the people that are into the music.
I've
Like,
been one of those.
yeah, so I've done that. I've done that. So there are people like that, and that not that they're introverts, but they just love the music. They just go there for the music, and there are people like that in clubs. And we all do things differently. Like people like what I said, people go to clubs for different things, and sometimes people just want to dance, you know.
Right.
And people and
Sometimes
people forget that we go to clubs because we want to dance, and you want to enjoy that that bass hitting you real hard, and that's what I like about it. So, but with Twitch, kind of like, hey, if you have everyday life, I can't go to a club right now. I'll just listen to my favorite DJ, you know.
true.
So that's one thing. For me as a DJ, I've DJ differently in the clubs than I DJ on Twitch, and it's weird. Like when people think of me as like a house, soulful house kind of DJ, but when I DJ in clubs, I like hit hard and I just play straight up bangers unless I'm opening. But yeah, that's kind of like I have kind of, I guess, a different persona on Twitch than I do in real life gigs. And Stephen Hines, yes, clubs are open here in the US. I have a couple of club gigs coming up, so I won't be on Twitch that much the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Steven. Depending on where you are, things have either
Right.
reopened or they've been open. I mean, Florida never really shut down, so
Yeah.
they've been basically doing it longer than
Mhm.
anybody. But it just depends on where you are,
Right.
and um,
It depends on, yeah, how the government, the local government is dealing with the virus, I guess.
yeah, um, and also, I mean, live music in general is kind of. It depends on. Right now, it actually just depends on the artist and the promoter because
Mhm.
it's
Right.
like Live Nation and Ticketmaster have like and even Insomniac that does EDC, they have all these like now restrictions of like testing and bringing your proof and all
Right.
that stuff to get in, but you can still go to concerts now. Like
Mhm.
I went
Yeah,
to
I saw.
Vegas for a concert a couple weeks ago, and I've been at the beginning of August I went to Fenway Park
Yeah, I think I
for a
saw that. I
concert.
saw your post there. I saw
Yeah,
that post. I
so
was like, "Oh, what's she doing here?"
yeah, so it also depends on if it's an outdoor venue versus an indoor
Right.
venue right
Uh-huh.
now. So
Yeah, there's a lot of factors involved. There's,
yeah,
artists, clubs, the venue. So it's kind of hard to gauge right now.
yeah.
Like, uh, and I don't know. I I played like 3 shows since clubs have opened. It's weird how I enjoy Twitch. It's kind of embarrassing.
Really?
Right, right, yeah. I enjoy Twitch. I mean, I don't know. I can't. I struggle. I struggle with drunk people.
Yeah,
I struggle dealing with requests, and it
there's that.
annoys.
Yeah.
I lose that whatever momentum I have. Someone comes up to me and asks for something. I just, yeah. I guess it's me not being used to being around people because I've been isolated. When people come up to me and I'm in the zone, and someone comes up to me asking for this, I'm like, oh man, I wish I
Why
was
do
in
you
Twitch.
Yeah, why do you think that
But
people think like out I've noticed that where they like go up to the booth or like try to talk to DJs and stuff or I don't know, distract artists when they're trying to do their thing in real life as a I know obviously Twitch is a whole thing, different but
mhm,
why do people feel like they can do that? Like
I
I don't I've
I
never
don't
been
know.
that type of person that unless I was invited by the DJ or something.
Right. I I I, I
Yeah.
I don't know. It's privilege, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and etiquette. I think you know, there's I don't know if people still do that, but back then, you don't talk to the DJ, and because now people we kind of like put the DJs on a pedestal and use us kind of like the people we think that since the DJ we pay the DJ or we kind of think of them as kind of like a jukebox kind of thing and
I
that
guess.
but back then DJs create the vibe and we let the DJs do the work and now you know it's a different time different mindset among people and I don't know how to change that. I don't have an answer for it.
I
It's just
know.
annoying.
It's just that never-ending question. I just have always wondered, and I see a lot of posts online of people that have now going back to play live, and then they're like,
Mhm.
"Why are people doing this?"
Yeah.
So you're not the only one to say that. But I was just curious what your thoughts were. All right. Well, we're right on an. I don't want to take too much of your Saturday, and I thank everybody for watching this live. It's sorry I didn't get to all the
Yes.
questions.
Uh,
Um,
let's let's answer a couple. I think there's
but
a couple.
yeah,
Let's just run through it because
let me go through the list here.
yes, Jenden would love to. So Abco and I hopefully we are working on something, but we hopefully it becomes where we get to go to different places and we'll see where this one goes. But I would love to play at different spots. So right now we're working on a couple ones down at the on the West Coast. We'll see how that one goes. It's kind of tricky, just like what you said earlier, where doing live shows, kind of like if we go somewhere and then there no one shows up, it's kind of hard. It's You're losing money, and that's the last thing I want, especially for promoters to get you and then not make any money.
Right.
And so you kind of have, as an artist, you have to be smart about it. You have to look at logistics, people that they're inviting, and all that. So yeah, but hopefully once things get back to normal, then yes, I would love to. Austin
Yeah.
sounds dope.
To go along with your comment there, Jen, then yeah, it's I guess it's just per city too. What you're talking about, like Austin is kind of has their own feel, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm here in Phoenix, and it's just a weird. I mean, it's already a weird scene pre-COVID, but now it's kind of like everybody's trying to open it up or do shows, even
Hmm.
though Arizona's open, but it's still kind of like people are apprehensive and
Yeah.
other, and then also not a lot of artists are rushing back to play here in Arizona, so like they're going to California or they're going to other
Right.
states. So
Hmm.
so it's kind of a situation where a lot of us are traveling to go see artists because it's like, you know, things are still a little unsure for
Right.
people to like book everywhere.
Hmm.
So it's one of those things of
It's
doing
very
that.
tricky. It's very tricky.
Yeah. All right.
um,
Well, and I miss a
last
question.
one. Let me see. Do you want it to be the way? No, I like talking with people. When I'm DJing, yeah, it's cool. But when people come up to me and ask for a request, then it's just like I just lose it. I lose whatever momentum I have, and yeah. But talking with people, I like it. There are people in the booth, I'm okay with it. But the moment people like start touching the stuff, because I've experienced that like 2 gigs ago when I did this one gig. Like this person was trying to touch. I asked him what does this do and all that. But these are drunk people, so yeah, I stepped out of the booth. It's called to ask for the bouncer to bounce that guy off the DJ booth, which was
Yeah.
annoying. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I don't
it.
understand why people, even when you're drunk, feel the need to like do that. I mean, I've
Yeah,
never
well,
had that urgency when I've been drunk to be like, "Hey, I'm gonna
well,
go."
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's another issue altogether. How people
Yeah,
handle alcohol.
yeah. All right. Well, everybody who's obviously watching already probably follows, but if you don't, follow Mike Freak on Twitch and check out his SoundCloud as well as all the other links and deets. And thank you everybody for tuning in live. And this will be
Yes.
available for replay in audio and video form afterwards. And
Well,
thank you everybody
thank you,
for
Brooke.
tuning in.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike,
So
for joining.
how do I call you, Brooke or Saxy?
Whatever.
But yeah, you can call me Mike. So everyone calls me Mike.
Okay. All
But
right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of this podcast.
yes, thank you guys. Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate it.